Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on today's industry advice. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that I think can be very helpful to you guys. It's all anecdotal, but the number one way that I've learned in my job is through my mistakes. And that being said, I don't want for everybody to have to make the same mistakes I did when they can just simply be told from a source that they're bad, or at least be cautioned not to make them. If you still make them, you're going to learn. But I can do my part to help you avoid some pitfalls. So what I want to talk about today is the biggest mistakes that I've made in my music journey and career. And I have these compartmentalized into two different sections. There's early and then there's late. So early meaning, when I'm learning, producing and stuff like that, in my naive era of being, a child trying to learn how to produce, essentially. And then further beyond that is late. So after I've already gotten in the game and, kind of understand how things go and just the mistakes that I've made after that, which are still applicable to, even learners. So, without further ado, let's just jump into it and get started. Early, we will start with number one. Thinking I didn't need good tools. So this is pretty trivial, but it's very true. So when I was starting producing, I was on FL Studio, and I got like the basic version, which is completely fine, but I really thought that everything that I had was completely fine, and everything I had could make completely sufficient music. For a very long period of time, I thought this. Even after I had acquired some tools, I still just wasn't capable of understanding that there were better tools out there. So what I mean by this is, plugins, samples, etc. I was very much just like, well, FL Studio should have everything that I need. There can't possibly be anything better outside of FL Studio. You mean I got to pay? This software alone cost me $200. You mean I got to pay another $150 for this fucking plugin? And I was like 16, so I didn't have money, the idea that I was like above like all these good efficient tools made me less good as a producer, because I just wasn't able to, you use low quality tools, you get low quality results. And unless you're like a really, really good producer that knows exactly what you're doing, that can like fine tune all of those tools. So say you have a shitty kick sample, I've been producing for 10 years now. You give me a shitty kick sample, I can make it sound good. Maybe not great, but good. You can't do that when you're fucking 1 or 2 even, it takes time to hone those skills, and you got to really understand what's going into production. So you're not above needing good tools. So, if I'm doing feedback and I say that I think you need a better sample, understand that this is the place that it's coming from. It's, I was very reluctant to make those things happen in my journey. So just trying to caution you on that so you don't make the same mistake. Number 2, not using reference tracks. So this was a really stupid pitfall that I had for quite a while. I didn't really understand that using reference tracks was like allowed. So just another fun little fact here, anecdotal of my journey. When I started producing, the resources that exist now were not there. Like we had there's some dude on YouTube that gave like really shitty production tutorials for FL Studio. We had a couple of like Avicii videos that we could look at. At least this was as far as I was able to find. I wasn't familiar with Reddit at the time, so I probably missed out on a lot of stuff there. But regardless, it's just all the tools that exist now. You got every producer in the fucking game. Noisa just released a fucking sample pack on Splice. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit's just unreal. You got the best in the game giving you tools and giving you, ways to make music. So I didn't understand, like nobody had ever told me, or I didn't know that using reference tracks was a thing, and I just didn't like practically come up with the idea on my own. I figured it would be frowned upon and that all the good producers would, just make stuff without a reference track. So I just didn't use one, and I was very stupid. That was very ego driven in a sense, and it set me back quite a bit, because if you just A/B your track with another one, over time you just develop that ear to understand what the difference between those two is. It's almost like it's like machine learning, but we're the machines. We're the ones that are there to spot the differences. So yeah, not using reference tracks, that was very stupid of me. That it took me years before I started using reference tracks, to be honest with you, because again, I just didn't really get it. So use your reference tracks. You're not above them, and really fucking try to like make that shit sound similar. Hone in on specific elements and try to copy what your reference track is suggesting that you need to do to your track as much as you can. Number 3. Here's a fun one. Oops. Oh, I fucked that up. Number 3. Thinking good things can and should just come to me. So, for example, there's another one that'll come after this, but just thinking that, if I were to compete in a Beatport competition, that, even if I didn't win, maybe some record label executive would hear my potential and be like, oh shit, like, you're not good right now, but we can make you good. Like this should happen to me. Such a naive mentality. Definitely just like, fuck. I mean, I started producing when I was like 14, so, it's dumb as hell. Just an absolutely fucking stupid way of thinking. But it's worth mentioning because I've come across a number of people that maybe weren't 14 but still had thoughts similar to this. Good things in the music industry aren't just going to fall onto your lap. They will, but it's like it's not just going to happen out of nowhere. You can't make no music, release no music, showcase no music, have bad music, not work for good music, etc., and just expect all these things are going to happen. That's not going to be the case. But what you can do is maximize your chances of good things happening, which they will. But you have to have the infrastructure. You have to have a portfolio. What I mean by that is you have to have like a discography. You have to be good. Like you have to get your production to a certain level, and that level, unfortunately today, while the good news is that you have more resources than ever, the standard is also higher than ever. So, double-edged sword there. But, I lost my train of thought. Fuck. Yeah, just doing good, being nice to people, all this stuff, in making good music. You will have opportunities fall in your lap from time to time. It might take a really, really, really long time, but good things will happen. But it's not going to happen if you don't put yourself out there at all, and also if you don't have the skill sets that you need yet for good things to happen to you. So don't just expect that, like, because you decided to become a producer, that all of a sudden you're going to have all these good things happen and you're destined to make it. There's no main character in this game. I also, as a child, definitely had a bit of main character syndrome. So yeah, that was not the case. Let's move on. And I believe this next one will be, in tandem with the other one. Thinking a big producer would take me under their wing. Definitely some child Santa Claus belief ass bullshit. But when I started producing, again, very young, I very much thought that, somebody like again, I compete in a big Beatport contest. And even if I don't win, or even if I did win, maybe I win. And then Steve Aoki's like, yo, I want you to be my new apprentice. That shit doesn't fucking happen. I mean, it just doesn't. Now, there's some cases that things like that have sort of happened, but it's not without dues being paid first. Like you still got to be really fucking good. And anything that a producer wants to give to you, it's just really luck of the draw, to be honest with you. It's like usually, and further, a lot of the time it's because there might be something that you have to offer them as well. And an example that I'm thinking of is I listened to a David Guetta podcast the other day. and he was talking about kind of linking up with Morton. Well, Morton had his own whole ass career before David Guetta. Secondly, he brought something to David Guetta that David Guetta could use, and then in trade he kind of mentored Morton, and now they have like a collab project, etc. But that's kind of that circumstance. But no big producer is ever just going to come along like your magical angel and just sweep you off your feet and take you to the land of having a career as a dance music DJ, unless like you have like your dad is like best friends with like Steve Aoki or some shit. He's not just gonna pick some rando, you know what I'm saying? So just be wary of that. To the next. All right, a little bit of a different one, but this is another one that has to do with just learning how to produce. Spending too much time just figuring it out instead of actually studying. Again, this is very much the product of being young and stupid. But I was like, I would do some studying. I would watch videos and stuff, but I was more of a just like, I'm sure I'll figure it out. Like, let me just jump in and I'll figure it out. Which, to be honest, hindsight 2020, I learned a lot of skills from just figuring it out that I might not otherwise have if I would have just played by the book. But if you're trying to learn and you're trying to learn with a purpose, meaning that you're open to studying, you're open to listening, and you're open to watching other people that already know what you're trying to learn do what they do, and again, the resources now are plentiful, you're going to learn a lot faster than if you just mindlessly jump in on Ableton and or FL and just try to fucking figure shit out. They're complicated softwares, and you're going to uncover a lot more by watching others and studying others. So I'm glad you're here. You have all the resources that you could possibly imagine to watch and learn from me, or there's plenty of others as well if you're not interested in what I do. So obviously you are to some extent, or you wouldn't be watching this video. But that summarizes for now what I'll call part one of the biggest mistakes I made for the early part of my musical journey. Now let's get into some actual career mistakes. This is the fun. Late career. Number one, believing in cheat codes. Major labels, big manager, big agent, etc. So, I don't necessarily think too many of you guys are near this point, but there's a handful that actually are. So, it's worth talking about. Even if you're not near it now, ideally you will be someday. So, hear it from me first. Don't make the same mistake. There are no cheat codes. The only cheat code is working your ass off. Aside from that, like there's no shortcut. There's no tools that are available to just let me rephrase. There's no system that you can magically get selected for that's going to propel you light years ahead of everyone else. You want to know what that system would be if it did exist? Money. If you can get a small loan of $1 million from your rich ass uncle, bet your ass you can make some moves past a whole lot of fucking people. But even then, I've seen it many times. I've seen some nepotism children hop in the industry and eat shit and fucking die. You really have to you got to know what you're doing, and you got to just work hard if you want these things to happen. So I'm going to get into the specifics. Major labels don't give a fuck about you. Never sign a major label deal. It's not going to pan out for you. I did one. I signed a major label deal. My deal is now sitting in a desk of a label that no longer exists. It became something else and completely restaffed. Nobody is even aware that my deal still exists. I got super fucking lucky, like very, very, very lucky. And I was able to kind of get out of my deal, even though it still technically exists. There's just nobody like monitoring it whatsoever. So I'm able to work outside of it. And we got written permission from them that I can release with other labels. So yeah, that's that whole thing. Big manager / agent, etc. So for those of you that aren't familiar, the manager is kind of the one that helps you steer the ship from the business side of things. The agent is the one responsible for booking your shows. For every 1,000 DJs, there is one that gets the advantage of having a big, what I call a big dick agent. What they do is they would put their act on you know, like say for example, Illenium is also another act that's under this agent, and they just shoehorn this new DJ in on all of the Illenium shows, and they get big off of that. There's only a couple instances that I've seen of that ever fucking happening, and not even every single one of them have actually worked. A big agent isn't going to help you. It's no replacement for just busting your ass off and being really fucking good at music, having a good brand and image and all that fun stuff. It's not going to help you. Secondly, a big manager, it's kind of the same thing as a big agent, but I can discuss, you know, even more with this. You know, say you want to sign to Mo Shalizi. No shade on Mo Shalizi, because he's a fucking excellent manager. He's a absolute walking legend. But if one of you listening to this video signed with Mo Shalizi tomorrow, say by some coincidence he was down to sign you, he's going to tell you firsthand. I don't need to tell you this firsthand. He'll tell you. He's like, I'm not going to work on your project that much. He says, I'm going to assign one of my smaller managers that work for my company to work on you. And you know how much better that smaller manager is going to be than just about anyone else. I'd say the only good thing in there is that there's solid infrastructure in that management team, and that smaller manager, you know, probably understands how to actually be a good manager. So, you know, it's a good system to be in, but it's not going to be Mo Shalizi sitting there just throwing miracles at you left and fucking right. You know, it's important to understand that right now. He's not going to get you a fucking Kendrick Lamar top line. He's not going to put you on Lollapalooza your first year as a fucking producer. Like, this shit is not going to fall out of the sky and land on your lap. It's just not going to happen. Okay. Like I said, though, the good thing would be if you did get an opportunity to sign with him, there's very good infrastructure. Yes, the smaller agent or the smaller manager would not necessarily be Mo Shalizi, but he's learning under him, and it's good infrastructure, right? So good infrastructure is different, though, from miracles, so don't be sitting there expecting miracles. And that same exact line of thinking can go with the agent. Big agent probably won't have time to work on you. That being said, maybe one of the smaller agents under them can, and they're learning from the best, and they're in a good environment. What's important is that they work hard, and they want to work for you. That is number one above all. Good managers have grown out of the woodwork just from wanting to grow their artists and being very passionate about growing their artists. That's ultimately how Mo Shalizi got to where he is right now. Anyways, kind of on a tangent, but don't believe in cheat codes. Major labels don't give a quarter of a fuck about you. You're going to get screwed. Big manager also probably won't give a fuck about you, but yeah, just don't expect miracles from these things, okay? Let's move on. 2, putting too much stock into collabs. So this was, I don't want to say this was all my idea, but my previous management that I was with was always very vehement on, you got to be making tracks and sending them out for collabs. Like, annoy the piss out of these fucking people to try to get collabs. And you want to know how many of those collabs came to be? I probably sent out fucking 30 different collab opportunities. I probably landed 3 tops. And what I mean by putting too much stock into these is that we had plans. We had plans of things that we were doing. We were pitching to other people that were in the industry saying, oh yeah, we're working on doing this collab. And then it didn't fucking work out. We put too much stock into it. Don't put too much stock into collabs. You can try to make them happen. What I mean by collabs is big collabs, by the way, like with artists way, way, way bigger than you. If they're going to happen, they're going to happen, but don't put too much stock into them. Worry about doing things on your own, and then what will happen is the good things will gravitate towards you. If you just start spamming everybody and be like, yo, collab, 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 you're just going to be super fucking frustrated and not have good things happen. Whereas if you focus on yourself, make good music, put out good music, etc., you're going to get opportunities like somebody bigger, like maybe Nightmare hitting you up and being like, yo, I've heard this shit of yours and I fucking love it. I'm working on my next album. I'd like to get something going with you. Send me some demos. Have your demos ready, but it's, at that point, that's how you land a collab much more successfully than just like blindly firing them off and also just putting a whole lot of stock into them as if they're for sure going to happen, because who knows. I could tell you anecdotally, one of the ones right now, I have a collab with DJ Snake. You know how much stock I've put into that thus far? None, because it is now my second one with him. Love the dude to death, but he's not great at just like finishing the job with collabs and stuff like that. So I don't know. It may never come out. It quite literally might never see the light of day. I've had plenty of collabs quite literally never see the light of day, and that's okay. That hasn't stopped me, because I'm not putting massive amounts of stock into collabs anymore. I'm focusing on me, and then if the collabs happen, great bonus for my business. But I don't put a fuck ton of stock into them. Okay. Number 3, not committing to a sound / standing for nothing. So what I mean by this is when I started out, I had kind of a specific sound. There were a few different sounds that I sort of like jumped between. And then when it came time to release original music, I kind of just threw that all by the wayside, because I was feeling pressure from managers and different systems to release a very particular type of music. And I ultimately just like tried going like a way more commercial sound route, and it just didn't fucking work. And I didn't stand for anything. So I fell for everything. Didn't commit to a sound, and this hurt me. This alienated my fans. And, you know, what I mean by sound isn't just like making the same fucking track 10 times in a row, but I mean just like having an identity and something that you're known for. Like, what is something tangible that like makes your music different from other people's, as well as identifies you? And I had that kind of to an extent, and I just kind of threw it away. So don't do that. You know, commit to your sound. Don't alienate your fans. You know, you feel free to like branch out and like do things that are different, but like, if you're a dubstep producer, don't go make a fucking like 110 Moonbaton record that uses none of the fucking sounds that you've ever used like in all of your other tracks. Like, you know, if you want to make a Moonbaton inspired record, by all means, go fucking do it. But, you know, use similar sounds to what you use in your other tracks, stuff like that. I see people talking all the time saying artists should be able to make whatever they want. I don't disagree. You should be able to make whatever you want, but also don't get fucking pissed off if like you make something that's completely left field and sounds nothing like you, and your fans are like, what the hell is this? Like, that's just practical. You understand? You can't just expect every single person in the world to rock with everything that you do. And that's okay. But understand that if you do this too many times, consequences will follow. And that is what I suffered. I alienated a lot of my fans by switching up on them. So don't do that. It took a long time to earn those fans back, by the way, like many, many years. So number 4, underestimating the importance of a brand. Yes. So I very much I didn't really get branding. It took a long time for me to understand, you know, what goes on in branding. And to be fair, I'm still learning every single day, you know, like this, I'm by no means an expert, but I do have experience. So that's what I'm relaying to you as my experience, not my expertise. But brands are very important, and you know, it's very important to be a student of the game. It's important to try your best to understand what makes a good brand or a not good brand. I could tell you all the things about great brands. I don't consider my brand a great brand. Others have said that they very thoroughly enjoy my brand, and it's quite good. But as far as I'm concerned, it still has room for improvement. I have ideas that will hopefully get it to better than good at some point in time, but for right now, I don't think that's where I'm seated. But at the very least, I understand the importance of that brand. It's something that I don't want to say people are stupid, because that's derogatory, and that's quite frankly untrue. People are quite smart. People pay a lot of attention. But at face value, providing things, the most amount of things to the person that is experiencing what you have to offer for the very first time, that is going to get them interested in what you do, and makes, quite frankly, this is the most important one, makes the most sense, is going to really score fans for you. Putting together a project that makes the most sense. So like if your fucking name is Lollipop Sugar Plum and you're making the most aggressive fucking dubstep of all time, it might not, you know, be that synonymous. It might not make that much sense. On the other hand, some people might say that the juxtaposition of it would make a lot of sense, or at least be interesting. But you get what I'm saying, right? It's like, come up with things that make sense. Come up with things for your project and your brand that are original, but most importantly, make sense and bring it all together. That's the most important thing that you can do. And I underestimated that. First things first, I just didn't create a brand when I was a younger producer because I didn't understand it. And secondly, like when I did start to create a brand, I was very fucking bad at it and was all over the place because I didn't get it. And I just thought that, I could throw shit at the wall and it would work, and it just didn't. It was just pathetic, and it looked like shit and it felt like shit. And fortunately, I've been able to learn since then, and I'm able to kind of capitalize on that learning and move forward. But, I'm telling you this so that you don't have to make those same mistakes. Study your dick off when it comes to like good music project branding, and try to develop good taste as much as you can. It's very, very, very important. Very, very important. Number 5, underestimating the importance of social media. Oh man, this is one as strong as the test of time. A lot of people will say, so I saw a tweet from Paul Campbell not too long ago. Paul Campbell is Nitty Gritty's manager. He does some others as well. Very good manager as far as I'm concerned. I've never met him in person, but he seems like a good guy. And more importantly, I appreciate his takes. This take was excellent. He said, if you are a great musician making great music, you don't need a strong social media presence. If you let me see if I can actually just find this tweet real quick. Hang on, I'll read it for you. Paul at, let's see, from colon at I am Paul Camp. Give me a second. Let me see. Latest. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm still finding it. Ah, got it. Okay. Here we go. Hit makers don't need socials. Top talent don't need socials. Good talent needs strong socials. Medium talent must have a significant social presence. Unicorns are top talent that has a great social media presence. Don't complain about social media demands if you don't have the talent to not need it. That is a stroke of fucking genius. That's completely correct. So what he's saying, hit makers, like really good fucking musicians, it's not critical that they have an insane social media presence because their music speaks for themselves, okay? Top talent, basically another word for maybe not hit makers, but just like the best of the best, well-rounded brands, super talented individuals. They also don't need super amazing social media platforms or content because their music is speaking for itself. And I want to stress what I mean by or what he means and what I'm reinterpreting to you by hit makers and top talent. I'm talking the top 0.001%. I'm talking fuck no, not me. I'm talking not 90% of the producers in the game. There's a very small amount of creative geniuses that are actually eligible to be considered in this bracket. And even if you are, pay attention as I continue on and get to this final point. Good talent still needs strong socials. You need strong socials if you're just good. Good is really good, good is a great position to be in. You want to be a good musician. The most musicians that are working and doing the job are good musicians. There are very, very few great musicians. When I'm talking great, I'm talking fucking David Bowie, Elton John, Freddie Mercury level. There's so few and far between of those in dance music in general, Good talent, you need strong socials. Medium talent, you must have a significant social presence. So if you're just like averagely good, the only way that you are going to really pop off and have a great chance at having a career is by strong social media presence. It's not to be underestimated. You need it. I'm telling you that right now. And like you said, the unicorn is the top talent that also has a great social media presence. So I'm thinking like the only example I could really think of would be like a Doja Cat, maybe. Like, I don't know if a lot of people would consider her a top talent. She's not like my favorite artist or anything, but a lot of people consider her super talented and she makes really good music, but she also does a lot of shit on social medias as well. And that's why she's a unicorn. That's why she's absolutely fucking massive. Take someone like Post Malone. Post Malone doesn't have like outstanding social media presence, but he is a hit maker and he is a top talent. So that's why. Do not expect yourself to be either of those two things. Expect yourself to be a medium talent, and then at worst case scenario, you are. At best case scenario, you end up being a unicorn. Don't underestimate the importance of social media. It's very important. Figure out how to have your voice on social media. Let's move on. Number 5, not reinvesting. Okay, so again, maybe a little bit particular to somebody that actually is working a current career in music rather than just a beginner. But one of my downfalls was I'm a very fucking frugal ass man. I do not like to spend money. I love to save money. I'll go weeks on end with holes in my socks I'll go years on end with holes in my socks because quite frankly, I just don't really care. But I'd rather, it's fine. I don't need to spend money on shit. You know what I'm saying? Because of that kind of carried over to my business, and I was very reluctant to reinvest. I'm not saying throw money at the wall with literally everything, and there's no reason to throw money at things pointlessly. Be smart with how you spend, but reinvesting is very, very, very important. There's certain results that can only be obtained by spending money, and you can't be afraid of that. Again, I say be very, very smart with it. There's a time to spend and there's a time to save, and you need to know the difference. It's critical, but also don't be afraid to reinvest like I was. I just wouldn't really pay for, things I needed. I was reluctant to, granted, this took a fucking piss load of money out of what I was making to where it was practically almost nothing at the time, but I was always very reluctant to try to hire good videographers and stuff like that. Again, because another thing to go with that is I had very poor experiences. I would hire people and they'd just be fucking terrible. But even when I did find good ones, I was reluctant to hire them again and again and again and again and again all the time, or taking somebody on tour with me perpetually. That's a mistake that if I probably would have just committed and done it, I would have ended up, generating more business in the long run, etc. So, I don't think I had the worst judgment there though, because like I said, sometimes I just get shit results from hiring people. And other times I quite literally didn't have the finances to be able to fly anybody with me. So anyways, all that is to say, reinvest. Don't be afraid to reinvest. If you start making even a little bit of money off of music, don't be afraid to reinvest. Buy that new plugin. Work on elevating your sound by getting better tools. Just hire that person to help you out instead of trying to do it yourself. If you're gonna do a shit job on it, if you're able to do a good job and you want to do it yourself, that's fine. If you don't have the time to do it, hire someone else. If you're gonna do a shit job on it, hire somebody else. Don't be afraid to reinvest into your brand and your project. Number 6, we'll move on. This kind of, it really doesn't go with other things. I guess it kind of goes with like believing in cheat codes, clout chasing. Here's what I mean by that. So it's like, it wasn't an original idea, but when I was like very fresh into the industry, my managers wanted me to fucking network my dick off, literally send me everywhere. I lived in LA for like half the fucking year, my first year of touring, because my managers just wanted me to just annoy the piss out of everybody and get in studio sessions and fucking just like try to like be friends with all these motherfuckers. And you know what? Fuck that, dude. Like, I've made some really good, genuine friends by quite simply just being myself and not being a fucking stuck-up dick. You can read that shit from a mile away, bro. I meet people every week that I could tell only give a fuck about talking to me because they think I have something to give them. No reason to be that guy. It's a waste of your fucking time because 90% of people can see through it. And you're just not going to get anything out of it because, like, it just seems so desperate. There's no reason for it. So I was getting sent all over the fucking place to essentially do exactly that, get in sessions with people, hang out with people, literally just like trying to like be their fucking friend and shit. And I was just like, God damn it, man. Like, it's just so not worth it. That's why my ass sits in this fucking chair in Ohio now, enjoying my low cost of living. Because quite frankly, I don't give a fuck about trying to suck up to anybody. It's not a good look. It's not going to give you the results that you need. You look desperate and it just hurts. Have good music and your music is going to chase your clout for you. You don't need to go out and do all these fucking crazy things and suck on people's toes in order to make your career happen. Okay. I kind of covered that earlier when I talked about like green room etiquette and shit, but now I'm reciprocating once again. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I can think of, at least right now. So we'll call this part 1 of the biggest mistakes I made in my career. I hope that you enjoyed this. And yeah, don't fuck up like I did. See you guys next time. Later.